Hi, welcome to this webinar. Now, I hope all you can hear me, and I'm curious to know where everybody is coming from. So can you indicate in the chat, if you like, from which city and which country you're going to attend this webinar? And you can find the chat at the right side of your screen. And we will start in a little bit, in a minute. I see Flavia from Rome in Italy, Joey from Minnesota, Lorian from Chicago, Charlotte from Copenhagen in Denmark, Don from Dayton, Ohio, Jose from the Dominican Republic, Paulo from Portugal, see Kelly from Dallas, Texas, Jorge from Houston, Jennifer from Tennessee, Farsha from India, Jennifer from Indiana, Samantha from Malaysia, Laura from the Philippines. Welcome, everybody. I'll wait 1 minute and then we'll start this webinar about unlocking the potential of variables in articulate storyline. Now, I hope everybody can hear me, but I'll see your reactions in the chat, so I think that's okay. So I'll take a last sip of water and disable my video so you can all see the presentation that I prepared. And let's start with this webinar. So for the people that don't know me on YouTube or LinkedIn, now let's introduce myself briefly so you know who you will be listening to for the next hour. Now, my name is Mark Spermel, and I'm a freelance e-learning developer from the Netherlands, and I've been working in the e-learning industry since 2006. I'm specialized in developing courses and also advising on best e-learning practices and learning management systems. Now, I work as a freelance e-learning developer, and over the past 10 years, I've become particularly skilled in using articulate storyline to develop these courses. Now, I've gathered a wealth of knowledge and techniques that I'm eager to share. So today I'm here to pass on some of my expertise. Now, I'll be sharing tips and techniques on how you can unlock the potential of variables in articulate storyline to create interactive e-learning courses. Now, let's look at which topics we will cover later on in this webinar, or we will cover in this webinar today. So this is what we will be covering today. Now, we'll start with a short recap of what a variable is for people who have not that much experience with variables. Next, we look at what types of variables there are in storyline. Now, then it's time to dive in storyline, and I'll show you a simple example of how to use a text variable. Then we'll go a step further and look at how we can use conditions in conjunction with variables with other text variables examples. Now, after that, I have a few engaging number variable examples and a true-false variable examples. And last, I have 3 tips on how to give variables clear names. And then there is room for questions and answers. So let's start. So let's start with the question, what is a variable? Now, a variable is like a container that can hold different types of information. And maybe you know, but variables are used in computer programs or in e-learning courses to remember and work with the information. Now, with variables, we can make it easier to do calculations, we can store user input or control how things happen in your course. Now, by using variables, you can create interactive and dynamic experiences that respond to what the learner does. Now, and maybe a variable is like a container that can hold different types of information is a little bit fake. So let's give an example. Let's imagine that a variable is a box, a simple cardboard box. And we can give the cardboard box a label, so it's clear what goes into the box. So in this box, we have given the label var username. So, and maybe you guessed it, in this example, I'm going to store a value, Mark Spermel, that's my name, in the box. And we pretend that that's the username of the learner for the course. And we can take that value out of the box throughout our whole course in Storyline and use it where needed. And I'll show you an example later on in this webinar how you can use the username of a student and show it to him in the course. Now, I hope this is clear for everyone what a variable is. And then it's also good to know that there are two different categories of variables in Articulate Storyline. The first category are project variables. And project variables are custom variables that you as a course developer define and create within your Storyline project. Now, for example, you have a project and we have a username variable to store a learner's username, but we can also have a project variable score to keep track of a learner's points as they progress through a quiz or game. Now, the key points about project variables are that they are custom variables and created by the developer, thus by us. They are used to store data and track learner interactions. Now we can assign them, update them, and access them using triggers. But it provides flexibility for creating interactive and dynamic courses. And there's also a second category, and that are built-in variables. Now, built-in variables are predefined variables that are coming packaged with Articulate Storyline. So they are already in every Storyline project if you open it. And they serve specific purposes and provide essential functionality to the course without requiring additional setup or configuration. These variables are part of the Storyline system and often control certain course behaviors or interactions. Some common examples of built-in variables include a slide number. So this keeps track of the current slide number. A slide title. This stores the name of the title of the current slide and you can show it. Player display captions. This is a variable you can set on true, then it will show captions in your Storyline project, or on false, and then it will not show your captions. And there's also an elapsed time variable that gives the time a learner has interacted with the course. Now, these were 4 examples. There are a lot more built-in variables, and we can have a look at them later on in this webinar. Key points about built-in variables, it's that they're predefined variables provided by Storyline. They are automatically managed by the system for certain functionalities, and we cannot modify or rename them, but we can use them by triggers. For instance, to see on which slide we are, or to show the slide title. Now, we know that there are 2 categories of variables in Storyline, but there are also 3 types of variables in Storyline. The first type of variable is a text variable. Now, text variables are used to store and manipulate textual information. This words, sentences, or user input. For instance, the username. Number variables are used to store and manipulate numeric variables, such as scores, points, or progress. And they are helpful when you want to track and calculate numeral data in your course, for instance, a score or a progress. And the third type is a true-false variable. A true-false variable is also known as a Boolean, and it can have only 2 values, true or false. And they are useful for tracking conditions or triggering actions based on binary outcomes. So for instance, an example where you can use such a variable, you have a chapter and you want to know if the learner has completed it, then you can create a true-false variable called, for instance, chapter 1 completed, and set it to false by default. And when the learner successfully completes the chapter, you can change the variable to true. Now, I will open my Storyline and create a text variable in it. So I will stop my presentation, share my screen. And if it's okay, you will see my storyline project right now. Now, I have a lot of things prepared for today. So let's click the first one and create a variable username to store the user's name in it. So what I will do is I'll go to Insert, and I'll go to Input, and I'll choose here data entry. One moment. And I draw a field here. And I will say type text here. Now I've created an input field, and what Storyline has done, it automatically created a variable. You see here the variable text entry. And now I'm gonna alter this variable because I want to name it change it to another name. So I'll here, if I click here on this X icon, you see my variable screen. Now you see here all the built-in variables that there are. And there's also a tab project variables. Now, I have already some variables. Let's look at the text entry variable. That's this one. We've created it right now. And I'll, for instance, make it user name. Click on OK. And you see now set username equal to the type value. And now we will use this variable. I'll see that the pop-up doesn't appear. One moment. I will stop share my screen and this one. And if I'll open the variables window now, can you see the variable window, everyone? Great. So resume what I told. If you click here on the X icon, you open the variable window. Now you have two types of variables. You see here project variables. These are the variables that I created myself. Now there are some variables that I've already prepared for you. And here are the built-in variables. So these are the storyline variables that are automatically in each project and that we can use them. On this slide, we've created this input field, and it created a variable with the input field. We changed the name to username, and now we can use this variable. So for instance, if I go to my second slide, I'll go here to my cursor. What I can do is go to Insert, and here to Reference. Now I can use this variable. So let's show username. Select it, and I click, and you see now hello username. Now let's preview this scene and see what's happened if I'll enter my name on the first slide and go to the second slide. So here, name is Mark, and I'll click on the second slide, and now you see hello Mark. And I can also fill in another name, for instance, James. I go to my second slide, and you see there's now James. So by using the reference username, you can speak directly to the user and use his name in throughout your course. Now you can do it here, but you can also do it in your feedback. For instance, hi Mark, yeah, that was correct, or Mark, unfortunately it was incorrect. Everywhere you want to use the name of the student, you can use this variable. Now let's take it a step I will provide the examples download with the replay that will put on my YouTube channel on Thursday, and then I will also put a link to this storyline project. Now I'll stop sharing my screen and go back to the presentation. Let's make it a little bit more difficult, but with more options. Now, we created a simple variable, but sometimes we want to do a little bit more, and therefore we use conditions. So what is a condition? Now, a condition is a logic statement that modifies how code is executed. Now, again, a little bit vague, but I have an everyday example. For instance, if it's raining, it can have two outcomes, true or false. Now, if it's true, then we stay indoors. And if it's false, then we go outside. Now, this tells the computer what to do and what not to do. So let's see now for an example with text and conditions. So I'll stop my presentation, share my screen again. This complete screen. And we'll go to the favorite game scene. Yeah, you see here, I've provided something here. You can choose your favorite character. Now, what I can do is create a variable that is called avatar. It's already there. But if I, for instance, click here on the green plus sign, I can create a variable, avatar or avatar name. I can give it the type that we saw, text, true, false, or number. And I can give it the default value. Now, I don't want to give it the default value right now. So if I want to save this, I'll click on OK, and you see avatar name is there. I want now to use the variable avatar. So what I will do, I'll click my first button, Captain America button. I created a trigger. And you'll see here my trigger wizard. Now, what I will do now is I'll adjust the variable avatar when the user clicks on Captain America, and I will set avatar to CA for Captain America. And the same I will do for the other buttons. So for Wonder Woman, I give WW, and let's do it for Batman. EM, the Black Panther, EP, and also for the Black Widow, BW. So what I've done here, and I can show it by creating a text here and go to insert, reference, and avatar. Now, if I'll preview this slide, then you see if I click here on Captain America, you see CA, Wonder Woman is WW. So this is stored in the value avatar, BM, Black Panther, and Black Widow. Now, what I want to do is I want to show the avatar throughout the whole course of the user. So I've here created the avatar. What I've done, if I go to my slide master, I've created a slide, and here also is the avatar with different states. And what I will do now is create some triggers. This I'm done. So what I'll do is I'll say change state of picture 1, set it to Batman when the timeline starts on this slide. And now I will give a condition. And what we'll say is it must only happen if avatar value is BM. And I will do this also for the Black Panther. So BP, Black Widow, BW, for our Wonder Woman, and also for Captain America. And I see here this was on picture 1. It has to be on the slides. So, and the last variable for Captain America is the picture 2 normal, because you see here normal is Captain America when it is CA. And it has not to be on chapter 1, but on this slide. So I'll close my master slide right now and preview this scene. And what you see, people can now choose their favorite character. For instance, I'll choose Wonder Woman. I'll go to the next slide, and you'll see here now that the Wonder Woman avatar is on this slide, and it could be on every next slide. If I go back and choose, for instance, the Black Panther, you'll see here now the Black Panther avatar. Now, if I create a new slide, go to Insert, no, go to Slides, new slide, game character, create text, slide 2. Now preview this scene again. You can see that if I choose here Captain America is here on my first slide, but it's also on my second slide. So this way you can set an avatar throughout your whole course. Now these were 2 examples what you can do with text variables, simple examples. I have also a more advanced example for you. A little sip of water, 1 moment. I close my preview, and here I have a social media example. Now it's a lot older. This is Twitter. It's called X these days, but that's not the type. It's about how you can create an engaging social media post. So it can also be a LinkedIn post or another post. What I've done here is I've created an input field, and you see here that there's a text variable. And on the second slide, you see here that there's a reference to the first variable, and here you can create a call to action. On the second slide, you see the tweet part 1 and tweet part 2. Here can you add hashtags, and here you have your whole tweet. And if we have a little bit of JavaScript, you can copy your tweet and you could paste it into your Twitter timeline. Let's preview this scene to see how it works. So I want to write a compelling opening for my Twitter. So I'm hosting a webinar today. And if I go to the next slide, you see here that this was the opening. I have also must write a call to action. Come everyone. It will be great. And you see, come everyone, it will be great. And now I can also add hashtags. Articulate storyline. And if I go to my next slide, you see that I've now created a Twitter post. Now, there's not JavaScript right now, but with JavaScript, you could paste this or copy this and paste this into, for instance, your Twitter timeline. So this is also another example on how to use text variables in articulate storyline. For instance, to let people write some stuff and break it up in parts. Then Let's go to number variables, because we've now discussed text variables, number variables. If you know that there are variables where you can calculate with, for instance, in a quiz, scenario, or a calculator. So I have a quiz prepared here with 5 questions. And you see here, there's a thermometer, and I will show you how I've set this up. So what I've done here is there is a shape, and it has different states. So here, if it's on state 10, I will set it on 10. You see it's completely filled. On 1, it's a little bit filled. So what we're going to do is we're going to add points to the quiz questions, and with the points, the variable will the thermometer will fill itself. So I'll set this to hidden. What I will do is I'll go to my I have a peak, which I have used quiz score. I'll go to my correct layer, and here I want to create a new variable. So I'll go to my variables window again. Now, if I want to create a variable, I click on the green plus sign. I give my variable a name. Quiz score 1, and the type has to be a number, because otherwise we cannot calculate with it. You can here give it a default value or a random value. And if I click on OK, there's the quiz score. And I click on OK, and now we can use the quiz score. So what I'll do now is I'll go to my trigger wizard, and under More, I'll click Adjust Variable. And here I'll choose quiz score. Let's see where it is, this one. And what I say is I want to add the value 2 to quiz score when the question is correct and when the timeline starts on this layer. So if the user has this question correct, he earns 2 points, and the thermometer will fill itself. And I've already prepared this for the other questions. So what I've done here, I'll have some triggers on my base layer that say set the state of progress, that was my progress shape, to 2 when the quiz score is equal to 2. Now set it to 4 when it's equal to 4, 6 to 6, 8 to 8, and 10 to 10. Now I have now 5 questions, so it adds up with 2 every time. If I had 10 questions, I could add it up with 1 every time. So if I preview this scene, you see here, this is the first question. Now, which superhero possesses a powerful shield made of vibranium? Now, I hope everyone knows it was Captain America. So it's correct. And let's continue. And you see it's filled right now. Multiple choice question. Who is known as the Man of Steel in DC Comics universe? It's Superman. If I click on submit, you see it's filled right now. So if I continue, let's make all the questions. This is Batman. And the last man is Thor. And you see it's now completely filled. So this way you can make a progress with numbers for a quiz. It could be a thermometer or something else. What you can also do, for instance, let me show you, is if you have a scenario, you can do something with points that will be added up or will subtracted when a user presses a certain answer. So here, for instance, this could be a sales conversation. the customer gives a question to the salesman, and the salesman gives an answer. Now he must pick between 3 answers. For instance, answer 1 is the correct answer, then you get 3 points. Answer 2 is a medium answer, you get 1 point, and answer 3, if the salesman answers that one, then you get that's not the correct answer, then 2 points will be subtracted, for instance. What I've done here on my timeline is I have a slider here. Slider has also a variable. I will show that in a minute. I have 3 emoticons, so a sad face, a neutral face, and a happy face. And here I have my shape. Let me show you. And I filled it with a gradient. And the gradient has 3 stops, so it's from red to green. So we can give it progress. And here is the slider. If you go to the design, you see here slider 9. That's the variable name. Now let's change that in sales conversation. And so that's okay for now. And you see here the sales conversation has 20 steps. The initial step is on 10, so that means it's now in the middle. So let's do something with the answers. So for the first answer, I'll go to my trigger wizard and I'll say I want to adjust the sales conversation variable, and I want to add 3 points to sales conversation. And I don't want to do it when a timeline starts, but I want to do it when the variable changes. Tweet part 1. No, when tweet part 1 is not correct, it's sales conversation. This one will not be. Is not going to work. So this, when user clicks, let's see, rectangular caption 2, I think, yes. Therefore, it's always good to give something a proper name. Now, I can say I want to add 1, if I get this, and also if I'll subtract, now let's make it 3 from sales conversation when the user clicks caption 4. So let's see if we preview the scene, what happens. So we're working now with the variable for the slider. So for instance, if I give a correct answer, you see that the slider jumps now to green. Now, for instance, this is a new question. The customer gives a question and the salesperson gives an answer. Now, it was not the correct answer, and you see it goes to orange. And so you can make a scenario with a bar to see if the sales person is on his good way in his conversation with his client. So if he gives good answers, or if he gives bad answers. Now, and if he gives bad answers, he has to do his best to keep the conversation going. And here you see the step with the slider bar. So we saw 2 different things now with the numbers, but I have another example. What you also can do is, for instance, make a calorie calculator or another calculator. What I want to do here is, when I'll drag each of these food items to my plate, it will add some calories. Now I've here already created a variable total calories, and what I've done for each thing, I'll let me see how I done it. Oh yeah, I created variables. So you see, for instance, here for the broccoli food, I've created a variable broccoli calories with a number, and the default value is 100. Now for cheese, it's 175, cola 250, eggs 20, fish 80, and meat 250. And what I'm going to do now is, if I'll drag this one to the plate, for instance, for the broccoli has to be added up to total calories. So let's preview this slide. Now, for instance, let's drag the broccoli to my plate, and you see the total calories on my plate now is 100. Let's drag the cheese also to the plate, and nothing happens because I didn't create a trigger for that. So let's see how we can create the trigger. And what I'll do is I'll create a trigger that said adjust variable, and I want to adjust variable total calories. There it is. I want to add not a value but a variable, and that will be the cheese calorie to total calories when the user, and not clicks, but object drag down, when I want to click one moment, this is not correct. When I drag the object drag cheese to my plate. So now if I preview the scene, and you see I drag broccolis, it's 100. And now if I'll drag the cheese to it, it adds up, it's now 275, because if we go back to our variable panel, we saw the broccoli is 175, of 100, and the cheese is 175, so it makes 275 in total. Now, what you also can do, and I've already done it here for the broccoli, is subtract the broccoli calories from total calories when you put it from the plate back to the shelf, for instance. So let me see this slide. And I'll add broccolis and I'll add cheese. Now it's 275. And now what I'll do is I'll drag the broccoli back to my shelf here. And you'll see now the total amount of calories is 175. It's only for the cheese. If I drag the broccoli back to my plate, 100 calories will be added up. So it's 275 for this one. So I hope this is clear for everybody. What I just told you earlier, I will send the link to this storyline project by my replays available from Thursday on my YouTube channel. So then you can see for yourself how things are set up. So now we covered our text variables, our number variables, but we have another type of variables. This is a true-false variable. Kayla says, when the broccoli goes back on the shelf, is there a way to make the broccoli large again, the way it was originally on the shelf? Yeah, it is. The broccoli now here has a normal state, and The other ways are the small is a drop state. So you see here, one moment, that set the drag state of drag broccoli to dropped when the user drops the drag broccoli on picture 4. Now, for instance, if I copy this trigger and I'll say set it to normal when the broccoli is on picture 2 or picture 3. And I'll preview this slide. Then you see that if I add it, place it here, now the values will be added up. If I place it here, you see it will be is large again. So now you can make it large again. Laura, is the webinar recorded? Yes, the whole webinar is recorded and will be placed on my YouTube channel upcoming Thursday, so you can watch it again if you want to. And I'm also put the link to this Storyline project in the description. Jose, will it be possible to open it with Storyline 3? I think so, because I don't use anything that is particular Storyline 360. So yeah, let's try it. If not, give me a call on LinkedIn or otherwise, and I will see what I can do for you. So what I've told, we have discussed two variable types, the text and the numbers. I will go to my next variable. I will keep this question and go back in the question and answer section in a little bit. So true and false questions. Now, what you can do, for instance, and I told you earlier, you can do something, for instance, if you have a chapter that is completed. So I have here an example chapter. It's a little chapter with a main menu and one page. So you see here the first two chapters are already completed. We want to complete the third chapter. So what I've done here is I've have a checked icon, and its state is hidden right now. So what I will do is create a new variable. So I create a variable here, the chapter 3 completed. No, completed, and the type will be true, false, and the default value is false. So I'll create a trigger now on this page that says not adjust variable, but change the state of the checked icon to normal when the timeline starts on this slide, and we'll give the condition when, where's my chapter 3 completed, when chapter 3 completed is equal to true. Now, then we also have to set some the chapter 3 completed variable to true somewhere. So let's imagine this is the last page of my chapter. So I have a button here. So what I can do is set, say, adjust variable, and I'll choose 3 and adjust variable chapter 3 completed to true when user clicks on hotspot 1. And I will also add a trigger that says that we go to our main menu page. So I will jump to slide, and let me see, this one when the user clicks on hotspot 1. Is there also a hotspot here? No. Let's create a hotspot here. So I'll go to insert hotspot here, and I'll say jump to slide, next slide when user clicks hotspot 2. So if we preview this slide, then you say, hey, I'm here on the main menu. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 are completed. This is chapter 3, so I'll go to chapter 3. I'm on the last page of chapter 3 right now. So when I click back to main menu, you see chapter 3 is now also completed. And this is because we created the chapter 3 completed. We set it to true here. And here there was a trigger that said set state afgerond H3. That's the icon to the state of normal when the timeline starts on this slide with the condition if chapter 3 completed is value true. So I hope this is clear for everyone. But I have also another true-false example. Let me see where it is. What you also can do, you can not only use it for your main menu, but you could also change it, check it for instance, a current flow. So what I have here is I have a battery. I have here an element that can be off or on, and I have a light bulb. Let me see where the light bulb is. This is here, and a light bulb has two states. A normal light bulb that is off, and one that is on. So let's create a variable. Switch. And it will be a true-false variable. On false. And what I will do now is I'll create my my variable. So what I'll do is I'll say adjust variable, set turn switch to true when user clicks button 1. And what I'll do is I'll make here a change state off for this element. So set it to normal when the user clicks on button. One moment. And I'll give also a change state of the freeform, set it to on when a variable changes, and it has to be turn switch on, and we give it a condition when turn switch on is equal to true. So now if I'll turn my switch on, this switch will go on, and the light bulb has to go on also. So let's see if this works. So I turned my switch on, the switch is on, and the light bulb is also on. We did it with a true or false variable. What I've done now, if I set state freeform to on when switch on, but we can also turn the light off. So it has to be normal when turn switch is false. And here it's now set turn switch to true, but I want to toggle this variable. So toggle turn switch. So it means if I click on the button and the variable will be set, the first time it's true, and it's false, true, false, true, false. So let's see what happens right now. So I'll turn my switch on, the light bulb is on, I turn the switch, and you see I had to made a state that this one is open, the light bulb is off, turn my switch on, it's off, it's on again. So let's see. No, that's not the correct one. One moment. I'll give this also a condition. So turn switch has to be true and off, turn switch has to be false. So let's see if this works with our toggle variable. So when I'll turn the switch on, you'll see this is closed. The light bulb is on right now. I'll turn my switch. This is open and the light bulb is off again, on, and the light bulb is on. So you can also use a true variable, for instance, for a current diagram or a power grid diagram. Now, these were my examples. I have one more example. We have 10 minutes, so maybe it can be done. You saw earlier that I'll change the variable for a slider. So what I've done here in this example is to make something that people must see where their time goes in a day. I've created different variables here. 1, 2. These are all variables, and these will all add up to 24. And this is a slider, and this is out of my my slide. Sorry. So let's. I not want to preview my slides, but I want to preview my scene. So you can see here, for instance, I have to work 8 hours, study 1 hour, commute 1 hour, some relaxation, also some sleep, and do errands, for instance, for 5 hours. Now you see, I have selected more than 24 hours. So errands, and if I check my answer, you see here now the chart of the answers. And this is how I did this in a combination of things that I showed you in our previous examples. I'll show you how I've created this. You see here, they're all sliders. So you see the things change. If you here click the minus sign from this slider, one will be subtracted. Click on the plus sign, one will be added. So then for errands, for instance, if you click plus, it's 1 hour for errands. And this one will also be added to the total variable of hours. And if you go to the next page, there are a lot of triggers here. Here I have a scroll bar, and here are all my bars, also on the same as we did with the thermometer. And you see here, now if it has, for instance, 5 hours, the bar will go on 5 hours, and it's based on the trigger here. And I will also place this in my example file that I'll put on the link to the replay of this webinar. So, are there any questions about articulate storyline that I must answer? I saw a question of Jennifer for the question and answer. Can you show how trigger the true-false variable of a chapter completion if there's a knowledge checked slide at the end of the chapter? For example, branch menu, like you showed, but chapter 3 ends with a quiz slide versus a regular slide. How would you trigger the true-false variable in that case, since the quiz slides are a little bit different? Or how to navigate back to the main menu after the quiz slide? Jennifer, I think it's simple. Now, let's pick a quiz question. For instance, this one from our quiz. And I'll add it here to this, into my chapter. So, and I'll have to delete this one here. So what I can do now here, for instance, if the question is correct, I'll put the trigger here on the correct layer. So on the correct layer, I can say adjust variable, and it will be chapter 3 completed to true, and this will be the timeline starts on this layer. And there's here a continue button. Now I can here also make a main menu button. So for instance, a main menu. I want to go to slide 2.1. And yeah, this is okay. So let's preview this scene. So I'll go to my chapter 3. I'll go here to my first page, my second page. And so I have a quiz question at the end of my my chapter. So who's known as the Man of Steel? Now, we know it's Superman. So I click on submit, and you see this one is adding up. And if I'll click on main menu now, you see also that this one is now completed. So Jennifer, is this clear for you? And is this an answer to your question? I hope so. Great. So is there another question about variables? Sarah, is there a variable could you use in articulate storyline for to pull through the name for an LMS when the eLearning is published in SCORM 1.2? No, there's not a variable that you can use in articulate storyline, but what you can do, and you can find it on the articulate forum, is use a bit of JavaScript that pulls the username from the LMS, and you can store it in a variable in the articulate storyline project. So let's look it up on the forum. If you have any questions, just email me or put a comment on the webinar review replay, and I will promise that I will respond to it. So yeah, we're also almost at the end of our webinar. So I have something to say about naming your variables. It's really important. Yeah, there are 3 things to naming variables. The first one is to be clear when you're naming your variables. So don't name your variable a TMP for temporary or X or Y. It's easy to do this, but in the long time, you don't know what a variable means. So think of a clear name for a variable, and it's important to consider that. Think of, if I gave my variable this name, will my colleague also understand what the variable does, or where I'll can use it, or he can use it. Second one is to be concise. So avoid, for instance, long variable names. If your variable that stores a username in articulate storyline, you might not want to call it this person's name, but you can call it username. It's shorter and also more clear. And the third one is to be consistent. So it doesn't matter how you write your variables, but be sure to stay consistent with naming conventions in your projects. Now, I normally use camel case notation for my variable. So, and with camel case, you write words that are normally separated by space as a single word by replacing the space as a subsequent letter. So, for instance, if I have a quiz score variable, the first letter of quiz is a capital letter, and the first letter of score is also a capital letter. And what variable also? So I hope this is clear for you. I see that there are some Q&A questions. Sarah, what variable would you use to add today's date? And there is not a standard variable for that one, but also you can use a little bit of JavaScript and store it in a storyline variable. And I'll use a text variable for that. If you have questions about it, let me know. I can help you with that. Now, I hope you all find my examples inspiring, and you can use them in your projects. I have a little thing for you at the end of this webinar. I have a special offer for you. It's valid to the end of this month. I have also a course to become a Storyline Pro, and you can get 30% off with the coupon Power of 3 for my Ultimate Articulate Storyline course. This course is your shortcut to from beginner to pro, and I've designed this course to tackle your pain points and demystify storyline features. It teaches you step by step to build engaging e-learning courses with Articulate Storyline. You can make use of it till July 31 for this month. Now, I hope it was a good webinar. I will give another webinar on a new topic in the last week of August. So thank you for your time. And this webinar will be recorded, and the replay will online on YouTube. Yeah, and there's a link to my course. If I end my webinar, there's a sales page, and you can find the link to the course right there. Thank you for your time, and see you next time. Bye-bye.